Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about a powerful moment in life that most of us don't expect, but when it hits, it shakes us to the core. It's the moment when a man realizes he lost a real woman. Now, I'm not talking about just any woman. I'm talking about the kind of woman who is real, authentic, and brings something extraordinary to the table. A woman who is strong in her own right, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. A woman who is not just an accessory in your life, but the very heartbeat of it. When he realizes he lost her, it's not just a relationship that's gone, it's the life he could have built with her. And in that moment, the pain cuts deep. But here's the thing, that pain is the beginning of transformation. You see, a real woman brings something irreplaceable into the world. She shows up as herself, flaws, greatness, vulnerability, and all. She doesn't need to pretend. She's honest, she's strong, and she offers a connection that is deep, fulfilling, and quite frankly, unmatched. When she's gone, something shifts inside of him. And it isn't just loss, it's regret, deep regret. It's the kind of regret that doesn't just haunt you, it forces you to look inward and ask, how did I let this happen? And in that moment, he starts to feel the weight of his mistakes. He feels the absence, not just of her, but of what could have been. But here's where the power is. In that pain, in that regret, lies the seed for something greater. That's the wake-up call. The universe has a funny way of showing us where we went wrong, but it also shows us the path to redemption. So let's talk about it. The first thing he needs to do is take full responsibility. I'm talking about total accountability, not blame, not pointing fingers. He needs to look himself in the mirror and say, I messed up. That's the first step to transformation. You cannot change what you refuse to own. But here's the key lesson. This regret, this pain, it's not something to run away from. It's your greatest teacher. You don't have to stay stuck in the past. Learn from it, grow from it. It's the ultimate opportunity to evolve, to become the best version of yourself. Pain is a catalyst for growth. Now, here's the second key, forgiveness. No, I'm not talking about forgiving her, although that's important, but forgiving yourself. When you're willing to forgive yourself, you release the weight of your mistakes. You stop holding on to guilt and shame, and you start moving toward the future with a renewed sense of purpose. So ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience? What can I do differently next time? And more importantly, how can I become the kind of man who deserves the love, respect, and companionship of a real woman? Because, my friends, it's never too late to become that person. But it starts with owning your story, accepting where you are, and committing to growth. Remember, the loss of a real woman is not the end, it's the beginning. A beginning of rediscovery, a beginning of becoming better. And if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to look deep inside and change, then that loss could lead you to the greatest transformation of your life. So are you ready? Are you ready to take control, to turn regret into power, to rise above your mistakes and create a future worthy of the love and connection you once had? Let's do this. Let's make that transformation happen today. A real woman doesn't just exist in your life as an accessory. She plays an integral role in shaping your world. She brings more than just affection and companionship. She brings a depth that you may not fully realize until it's too late. Often, people take for granted the invaluable power of genuine connection, assuming that love or relationships are just about chemistry or shared moments. But a real woman offers something far beyond surface-level interactions. She contributes to the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth of her partner in a way that transforms him from the inside out. Think about it. How many of us walk through life surrounded by distractions, lost in the daily grind, unaware of how much we depend on those deep connections that make us feel understood, heard, and supported? A real woman brings you back to yourself, but not just through comfort, through challenge, through support, and through authenticity. She doesn't just tell you what you want to hear, she tells you what you need to hear, even when it's hard to accept. A real woman isn't afraid to challenge you to be better, not because she wants to change you, but because she sees the best version of you that you may not see yet. The connection she offers isn't based on pretense. It's raw, it's real, and it's transformative. This type of woman isn't afraid to show you her vulnerability, her fears, her past, her dreams. And by doing so, she encourages you to show yours. You start to connect with her not just on a surface level, but on a soul deep level. The energy that flows between you and a real woman goes far beyond attraction. It's a bond that feeds into both of you, helping you grow individually. Real connection doesn't come from playing games or wearing masks. It comes from authenticity. A real woman shows up exactly as she is, unafraid of her imperfections, because she understands that true beauty and strength come from embracing them. She isn't trying to fit into a mold of what society says she should be. She is unapologetically herself. And when she's with you, she gives you permission to do the same. She teaches you that it's okay to be real, to drop the walls, and to be vulnerable. This level of authenticity is a rare gift. Many people never experience it, but when you do, it's like finding a treasure. It forces you to look at the person you are, the person you've become, and the person you have the potential to be. What happens when that connection is lost? The absence of that real woman doesn't just leave a gap in your life, it leaves a void in your heart. You begin to realize that it wasn't just her presence you miss, but the connection she brought. The way her words inspired you, the way her actions grounded you, and the way she made you feel seen and valued. When she's gone, the world suddenly feels a little colder, a little emptier. It's like a piece of you that you didn't even realize you needed is no longer there. It's often in the moment of loss that the true depth of the connection becomes clear. You can no longer take her presence for granted. The conversations that once felt effortless now seem like they came from another time. The laughter that once filled your days is now just a distant memory. And the way she supported you, guided you, and helped you grow is something you now long for, knowing it can't just be replaced. A real woman doesn't just love you, she encourages your growth. She pushes you to see your potential, often before you do. She doesn't just settle for what's easy, and she doesn't accept mediocrity in herself or you. She demands greatness, not out of arrogance or control, but because she knows you can be better. She believes in you, and she's willing to stand by your side as you rise to meet that challenge. Her connection provides you with the emotional and mental fuel to tackle life's biggest obstacles. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself in moments of self-doubt or frustration, and a simple conversation with her made you see things from a new perspective? Her wisdom, her understanding, and her nurturing spirit helped you realize that you were stronger, more capable, and more resilient than you thought. And she did all of this without needing praise, without demanding attention, just by being present, authentic, and real. Now imagine losing that. The woman who stood beside you, encouraging you to push past your limits, challenging you to grow, and inspiring you to be your best self, is no longer there. That loss isn't just the end of a relationship. It's the end of something far more significant. It's the end of an emotional partnership that's rare, one that allowed you to explore new depths of who you are. And when she's gone, there's a realization that you've lost not just the woman, but the version of yourself that flourished under her influence. This is why the connection with a real woman is so powerful. It's not fleeting, it's foundational, it's built on trust, respect, and an unwavering belief in each other. And when that connection is gone, it forces you to confront something that many people fear: the truth about who you are without her and what you could have been with her. It's in this moment of truth that you realize, all too painfully, that what you had was special, and perhaps you never truly understood the depth of it until it was too late. But here's the thing, it's not too late to learn, to grow, and to evolve from the experience. This realization becomes the spark for transformation, a chance to never take real connection for granted again. In the end, the loss of a real woman isn't just about missing her. It's about realizing that you've lost something irreplaceable, the kind of connection that changes you, challenges you, and helps you become more than you ever thought you could be. When he realizes he's lost a real woman, the effects ripple through his life in ways he might not have anticipated. It's not just the relationship that's gone. It's a sense of self, of confidence, of purpose. The pain that follows isn't simply emotional. It cuts into the very foundation of who he thought he was and who he believed he could be with her by his side. In the aftermath of this loss, he faces something much deeper than the absence of love. He faces the weight of his actions, the gaps in his character, and the missed opportunities to be better. The initial shock of loss is often followed by a profound sense of regret. This regret isn't about one specific moment or one mistake. It's about the culmination of everything he took for granted, It's the realization that he didn't fully appreciate her presence until she was no longer there. He begins to look back on moments he could have been more present, more attentive, more loving. He questions every word, every action, every decision, wondering if he could have done something differently to prevent this inevitable loss. It's the what-ifs that haunt him. The ripple effect of this loss extends far beyond the immediate emotional turmoil. It shakes his worldview, leaving him grappling with his identity and sense of worth. A real woman doesn't just show up in a man's life as a companion. She challenges him to become the best version of himself. She doesn't just accept him as he is. She encourages him to grow. She demands more from him, not in a controlling way, but in a way that highlights his potential. Her absence leaves him with a sense of emptiness, as if the support, motivation, and unconditional belief she had in him are no longer there to propel him forward. The man who once had the strength of a real woman beside him now faces the raw vulnerability of having to stand alone. In the beginning, this isolation can feel suffocating. The very foundation of his life was once built on the shared experiences and emotional intimacy that she provided. And now, with that foundation gone, he's left to navigate life's challenges on his own. But this sense of isolation is also a powerful moment of reckoning. He's forced to reflect on his own actions, his behaviors, and his shortcomings in a way he might have avoided when she was there, cushioning his mistakes or gently guiding him. There's no hiding from the reality anymore. In the aftermath of loss, the man faces a significant emotional wake-up call. The pain becomes a mirror that reflects the parts of himself that he may have ignored or neglected. He may see the selfishness he didn't realize existed within him, or the insecurities he tried to mask behind arrogance or pride. The absence of a real woman forces him to confront his own weaknesses, which can feel uncomfortable, even unbearable. But in this discomfort lies the opportunity for profound growth. This wake-up call isn't just about the loss of her. It's about the realization that he has the power to change. If he's willing to face the pain head-on, he has the chance to transform. He begins to understand that every mistake, every misstep is an opportunity to learn and evolve. This is the crucial point where many men either spiral into regret and self-pity or rise to meet the challenge of becoming better. It's a crossroads where he can choose to wallow in the loss or use it as a catalyst for his personal development. The reality is, when he loses a real woman, he also loses the opportunity to continue growing with her. Her presence in his life wasn't just about love. It was about partnership, mutual growth, and shared dreams. Losing that partnership can feel like a death of sorts, but it's not the end of the story. The most important lesson in the aftermath of this loss is that the ability to grow, to become better, still exists within him. However, the path forward requires him to take full responsibility for his role in the relationship's downfall. Many men in this situation will feel tempted to shift blame onto the woman, the circumstances, or external factors. They may rationalize that if only she had done this differently, or if only the situation had been different, things would have turned out better. But the real power comes when he refuses to play the blame game. When he chooses instead to own his part in the loss, he steps into a place of real personal power. Only when he takes responsibility can he begin to make the necessary changes to move forward. In this moment of self-reflection, he learns that the pain of losing a real woman is not a punishment, it's a guide. This pain teaches him what it means to value someone deeply, to appreciate what truly matters in a relationship, and to understand the importance of emotional intimacy, trust, and respect. It shows him the kind of man he needs to be to attract the love and connection he once had, and ultimately to build a healthier, more fulfilling relationship in the future. The wake-up call, although painful, offers a powerful opportunity for growth. The emotional fallout from losing a real woman can be transformative if he's willing to face it head-on and use it as a tool for change. This pain forces him to examine the areas of his life that need healing, that need improvement. He begins to realize that his worth isn't defined by the loss itself, but by his ability to learn from the experience, grow stronger, and become the type of man who is capable of building a lasting and meaningful relationship in the future. In the end, the aftermath of losing a real woman is not something to fear. It's a painful yet necessary experience that opens the door to deep personal growth. The challenge lies in whether or not he's ready to step through that door, face his own shortcomings, and take responsibility for becoming the best version of himself. If he's willing to do the work, the loss can ultimately lead him to a higher level of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and maturity that will not only shape his future relationships, but also shape the person he becomes. Regret is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It's a feeling that digs deep into the heart, challenging our understanding of ourselves and our past actions. When a man loses a real woman, regret often becomes his constant companion, following him into quiet moments and loud ones, into his work, his social life, and even his own thoughts. But regret, though painful, isn't just an emotion to be avoided. It's a teacher. It has the power to shape him, to force him to confront his mistakes, and ultimately to help him evolve into a stronger, more self-aware individual. When he looks back and sees the relationship through the lens of regret, the true depth of his actions, or lack thereof, becomes clear. In the moment, it's easy to be distracted by the excitement of life, to take for granted the person who loves you, and to assume they'll always be there. It's only in hindsight, after the relationship has ended, that the weight of what was lost truly hits. It's the moments he didn't seize, the words he didn't say, the promises he didn't keep, the choices that seemed small at the time, the late nights, the dismissals, the emotional neglect, now loom large. They are the silent killers of relationships, and when he realizes how much they added up, the regret can feel overwhelming. But regret is not just about looking back and feeling sorrow or wishing things were different. It's also about the lessons that come with it. Regret forces him to ask the tough questions. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? What do I need to change about myself to ensure this never happens again? These are questions that demand self-reflection, and self-reflection is where growth begins. In the wake of this loss, regret becomes an internal conversation, a constant self-assessment that goes beyond the surface level of sorrow. It challenges him to examine his role in the breakdown of the relationship, not as a way of punishing himself, but as a way to truly understand what went wrong and how to prevent it from happening in the future. Regret is the key to unlocking the door to self-awareness. It forces him to confront the deeper issues in his behavior, his patterns, and his beliefs that might have contributed to the dissolution of the relationship. Perhaps he realizes that he wasn't as present as he thought he was. Maybe he was too focused on his career, his friends, or his own personal struggles to invest the emotional energy necessary to maintain a healthy relationship. Maybe he neglected to recognize the subtle but powerful ways a real woman needs emotional support, affection, and affirmation. In hindsight, he sees that his lack of attention wasn't about not caring, but about taking her for granted, thinking that she would always be there regardless of how he treated her. This is where regret can feel so sharp. It's not just about the loss of a person, but the awareness that he failed to see the value of that person in the first place. Regret also brings with it a painful awareness of missed opportunities for growth. A real woman doesn't just support you in the good times. She challenges you to be better, to grow, and to become the best version of yourself. She doesn't just accept you as you are, she pushes you to rise to your potential, to face your weaknesses, and to confront your fears. But in the throes of the relationship, he may have resisted those challenges, dismissed them, or failed to see their value. He may have seen her challenges as criticism instead of a call to action. And now, after she's gone, he realizes just how much her influence could have shaped him into a better man. This realization is one of the most painful aspects of regret. Recognizing that he had a chance to improve, to become something more, but he didn't fully embrace it. However, this regret doesn't have to stay as a lingering shadow. If he's willing to face it, to dive deep into its lessons, it can be the catalyst for transformation. He can choose to let the regret paralyze him with guilt and sadness, or he can use it as a motivator for change. The key is in how he responds. Will he stay stuck in the past, repeating the same mistakes? Or will he use his regret as the fire to forge a better version of himself? A powerful shift happens when he decides to learn from his regret rather than be overwhelmed by it. This is where true growth begins. He starts to see the patterns in his behavior that led to the relationship's demise. Maybe he wasn't as emotionally available as he should have been. Maybe he wasn't consistent with his words and actions. Or maybe he didn't know how to communicate his feelings and needs effectively. By recognizing these patterns, he can take responsibility and start changing the way he operates in relationships. Regret can become the teacher that shows him where he needs to grow emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It's also in this space of regret that he learns the power of forgiveness. Forgiving himself for the mistakes he made is the most important step in moving forward. It's not about excusing his actions, but about accepting that he's human, that he's not perfect, and that he's capable of learning from his mistakes. Forgiveness allows him to release the weight of guilt and shame, which ultimately frees him to move forward with a sense of purpose. In this process, he begins to understand that regret, while painful, doesn't have to define him. It's a reminder of what he could have done better, but it's not a life sentence. Regret is not the end of the road. It's the beginning of a new path. It pushes him to become more self-awareness, more compassionate, and more attuned to his emotional needs and the needs of others. When he chooses to learn from his regret, he evolves into someone capable of creating healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. Ultimately, regret teaches him one of the most valuable lessons of all, the importance of being present. It teaches him that relationships, love, and emotional connection are fragile, and they require attention, care, and effort to thrive. And though regret may hurt, it's also the doorway to greater wisdom and a deeper understanding of what it means to love, to commit, and to grow alongside someone else. By embracing the lessons that regret offers, he transforms his pain into power, his sorrow into wisdom, and his loss into a newfound commitment to never make the same mistakes again. When a man realizes he's lost a real woman, it is often viewed as an immense personal loss, but it's crucial to understand that this loss also opens the door to one of the greatest opportunities for personal growth. The pain of losing someone who truly cared for him, someone who believed in his potential, forces him to look inward, forcing a level of self-reflection he might have avoided otherwise. It's through this reflection that he can begin to transform and learn valuable lessons that will ultimately shape him into the kind of person who can build stronger relationships moving forward. The first and most powerful opportunity for growth that arises from this situation is the chance to face his own weaknesses head on. In the midst of a relationship, especially one with someone as real and authentic as a woman who genuinely supports him, it's easy to ignore or downplay his own flaws. He might have been able to coast by with her by his side, thinking everything was fine, or worse, justifying his behavior because of her love. But once that relationship is gone, the truth becomes clear. The relationship wasn't just about the love they shared. It was also about the things he needed to change within himself. The absence of that loving influence forces him to confront those areas of his character and personality that may have contributed to the loss. Facing his weaknesses is not a comfortable process, but it is essential for personal growth. He might recognize that he lacked emotional availability, that he didn't communicate as openly or honestly as he should have, or that he failed to nurture the relationship in the ways it needed. He might see how he was disconnected from his feelings, or how he failed to make her feel seen and valued. These realizations aren't easy, but they are the key to becoming a better partner in future relationships. This growth process involves accepting responsibility for his shortcomings, not blaming others or circumstances, but acknowledging where he went wrong. Through this acceptance, he can develop a stronger sense of self-awareness that will not only help him understand his past, but also equip him with the tools to navigate future relationships with greater emotional intelligence. Another powerful opportunity for growth comes in the form of emotional maturity. In many cases, a man's emotional maturity is tested when he faces the loss of a woman who has played a pivotal role in his life. A real woman doesn't just offer unconditional love, she challenges him to grow emotionally. She pushes him to explore his feelings, to dig deeper into his emotions, and to open himself up in ways he may not have been comfortable doing before. A real woman's presence requires him to evolve emotionally, to step out of his comfort zone and face the parts of himself he might have hidden away. When she's gone, the emotional work he's avoided now becomes unavoidable. The pain of loss and the questions that come with it are uncomfortable, but they are also the catalyst for emotional growth. Through the process of emotional healing, he learns how to better manage his feelings, how to express his emotions in healthier ways, and how to become more in tune with his inner world. He realizes that emotional maturity isn't just about handling conflict. It's about understanding his emotions, recognizing when something is wrong, and having the courage to address it. It's about embracing vulnerability, allowing himself to feel deeply and not running from difficult emotions. This growth doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with the painful recognition that he needs to change the way he processes and responds to his feelings. This newfound emotional maturity also extends to his ability to love and care for others. Once he has confronted his emotional weaknesses, he becomes better equipped to show up for others in a more authentic and supportive way. He learns how to be more present, more empathetic, and more compassionate. These qualities are crucial in building healthier relationships, whether romantic or otherwise. The lessons learned from the pain of loss, when applied correctly, lead him to become a more understanding, emotionally available, and supportive partner in the future. His emotional growth is not only about what he learns about himself, but also about what he learns about how to truly love someone in a deep and meaningful way. There is also a significant opportunity for growth when it comes to understanding the dynamics of relationships. The loss of a real woman isn't just about mourning the end of a connection. It's also about taking a deeper look at the very nature of relationships. He begins to understand that relationships are not static. They require ongoing effort, communication, and compromise. They are not about simply finding someone who meets your needs, but about building a partnership based on mutual respect, trust, and shared growth. A real woman challenges him to become a better partner, not by demanding it, but by showing him what it means to truly support and be supported. When she's gone, he realizes that he has to fill the gap left behind, not by finding someone new immediately, but by growing into the type of person who can build a lasting and healthy relationship. This realization gives him the opportunity to rebuild his approach to relationships, to be more conscious and intentional, and to avoid falling into old patterns that led to the loss in the first place. Finally, the most profound opportunity for growth is the chance to rediscover himself. Often in relationships, it's easy to lose sight of who we are as individuals, especially when we've relied on someone else to bring us fulfillment and meaning. The loss of a real woman offers him the space to reconnect with himself, to rediscover his passions, his goals, and his purpose. It's the opportunity to become the best version of himself, independent of his relationship status. He can explore what truly makes him happy, what drives him, and what he wants out of life moving forward. This is the moment when he realizes that personal growth is not about waiting for someone else to complete him, but about finding completeness within himself. Through this rediscovery, he can embrace a new level of independence and self-love. He no longer depends on external validation to feel worthy, but instead, he recognizes his intrinsic value. This newfound sense of self is the foundation for healthier relationships in the future. By taking the time to grow as an individual, he becomes someone who can give to others from a place of wholeness rather than need. He learns that true growth doesn't come from relying on someone else to fulfill him, but from understanding and nurturing his own growth and development. In conclusion, the loss of a real woman is not simply an ending, it's an opportunity for profound transformation. The pain of the loss is the catalyst for self-reflection, emotional maturity, and a deeper understanding of what it takes to build a healthy, meaningful relationship. By facing his weaknesses, developing emotional intelligence, and rediscovering himself, he not only heals from the past, but also becomes the type of man who can thrive in future relationships. Growth is born from the pain, and the man who embraces it can emerge stronger, wiser, and ready to build a more fulfilling life.